Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So now we are going to get into second chapter for this course, which is microbiology in food industry. So basically, in this chapter, we are going to cover the roles of microorganism in the production of fermented food. We are going to look the principles of the fermentation for each product. Besides that, we're also going to look into the roles of the microorganism during the production of each of the product. So these are the objectives that we are going to achieve at the end of the chapter. So about the activities of microorganism in food production, the principle of fermentation, the types of product in the local market produced by different types of microorganism, the spoilage that caused by thermophilic anaerobic microorganism, mesophilic bacteria, the diseases caused by foodborne pathogen, and how the food being preserved by using industrial food canning, aseptic packaging, and radiation. And the last one, the advantages and disadvantages of aseptic packaging method. Okay, so now the presence of microorganism in the food will lead to either two possibilities, which are the good one and also the bad one. So the good one, the presence of microorganism in the food that will lead to the good and desirable changes are such the microorganism that evolve during the food bioprocessing, meaning the microorganism is needed in the production of certain product. For example, if you want to make a yogurt, so we need to have the starter culture of lactobacillus and streptococcus. If you want to make a bread, we need to have yeast. If you want to make a wine or if you want to make a beer, we need to have yeast. If you want to make a kimchi, if you want to make a pickle, so we need to have a bacteria to produce the acid that will lead to the changes of characteristic of the original raw material. Besides that, the presence of acid that produced during the fermentation of the food will help or will be the natural biopreservation that will prolong the shelf life of the particular food, as well as the bacteria itself or the microorganism itself will be a probiotic that will help to improve the human digestion inside the gastrointestinal. However, the bad uh, the bad or undesirable changes that might lead by the presence of microorganism is either it will cause foodborne disease or it will cause food spoilage, whereby if a human or if you are accidentally consume spoiled food, you will have a food poisoning disease such as diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, and so on. So these are the interaction of microorganisms inside the food, which have the good side and also the bad side. Fermentation that placed by the microorganism will have a very big impact in food preservation. Each fermented food will have a longer shelf life in comparison in comparison to the original state of food. For instance, if you are comparing the shelf life of the fresh milk with a yogurt, definitely the shelf life of yogurt is longer compared to fresh milk. This is because inside the yogurt they have an acid that will help the yogurt to prevent the growth of the spoilage microorganism. Meanwhile, inside the milk, there are no acid present inside the milk that will help to protect the milk from the growth of spoilage microorganism. So the acid produced in this fermented food will inhibit the growth of many spoilage organisms and foodborne pathogens, hence it will prolong the shelf life. Besides that, LAB or lactic acid bacteria will have a lot of beneficial health effects on intestinal microflora in human gastrointestinal system, or we call as a probiotics. A little bit glance on what is probiotic. Probiotic is a good bacteria that can survive in the harsh condition of human stomach or human gastrointestinal system, and it can resist with the presence of hydrochloric acid inside the gastrointestinal system. So the ability of the bacteria to survive in the harsh condition, it will help the human to improve their digestion. Besides being a probiotic, the presence of microorganisms will help in production of highly acceptable texture and flavor modification in food. These are some of the examples of the fermented food by microorganisms. This only an example, but they have a lot of fermented food in the market. You can name it. We can see on the shelf, such as yogurt, cheese. We have kimchi. We have sauerkraut. We have voodoo, soy sauce, and many more. Okay, now let's see what are the contributions of lactic acid bacteria. The lactic acid bacteria not only will help the fermentation to start, but it also have another contribution to the food as well to the consumer, which is human. The first contribution is as preservative. The presence of certain compound the presence of certain compound from the metabolism of lactic acid bacteria will help to preserve various kind of food. This is what we call as a biopreservative. Some of the example of the compound are niacin, bacteriocins, lactoperoxide thiocyanate. Next is the production of enzyme. As we already know, enzyme basically is a compound that will help to accelerate the reaction inside the food. Some food require enzyme to expedite the changes from the original state into the new characteristic, such as rennin is required in the production of cheese. Other than that, enzymes such as proteinase, exopeptidase, and esterase will help into the protein hydrolysate and to help the production of flavor in the food. Next one is polysaccharide. The common name for polysaccharide is dextran, that have the thickening agent, that have the thickening ability. Polysaccharide is added into some of the food to thicken up the consistency, such as sauce and as well as jam. So these two kind of product, we need the help of dextran to improve the consistency so that it will achieve the characteristic of jam and sauce that have the high viscosity consistency. Next is flavor. Flavors such as diacetyl and acetone are the byproduct that produced during the metabolism of lactic acid bacteria. These two kind of compound can be found in butter and also yogurt that will give the flavor to butter and flavor to yogurt. Next one is probiotic. As I mentioned earlier, probiotic is a good bacteria that will help in digestion of human. There are some of genera of LAB that is profoundly known to be a probiotic, such as Lactobacillus acidophilus, that you can find in cultured drinks such as yogurt or Vitagen, Lactobacillus casei, and Bifidobacterium bifidum. These bacteria will help in lactose digestion, control of intestinal pathogens, stimulate of immune system, increase in vitamin B complex. Next one is the reduction of toxic compounds or antibiotic in the food. So LAB also able to help to remove or to decrease the amount of pesticide that present in wine as well as penicillin in milk. And the last contribution of lactic acid bacteria is it will help to immunostimulate, which will help the digestion of these two categories of human, which are elderly and babies. Mostly, these two group of people will have a problem in digestion due to the deteriorating of digestive enzyme that the body can produce. So since the amount of digestive enzyme produced is lesser, it will have a problem to digest properly their food. Hence, they need a certain kind of food that already been break down into the simplest molecule so that their body can easily absorb all the nutrients.